Grizzlies fans, it's time for another Grizz game day update. Is the Grizzlies taking on the Lakers once again? This is game 4 of round 1. Lakers lead this one 2-1. Allie, Clifton joins us again. You ready to break this one down?
Yeah, we got a little spicy series on our hands, I feel.
I do love a little spice. I would love it if it was 2-1 for us. However, the Grizzlies have a chance to tie the series tonight at crypto.com arena. This might be the most important game of the Grizzlies season. I know we talk about every game, of course, being important, but this one seems to, you talked about it when the Lakers won game 1, stole home court advantage. The Grizzlies want to come back here, not having to win 3 in a row against this Lakers team. So definitely a sense of urgency there. Let's talk a tiny bit before we get to today's game about last game, Allie, because as a Grizzlies, on the Grizzlies side, that 35-9 first quarter didn't feel great. But we talked that game kind of about how the Lakers respond, and boy, did they respond.
Yeah, it was funny when you texted me midway through the first quarter, and obviously you're in Memphis, and I was literally sitting there inside the arena, and a lot of chatter went into that game just in terms of, I think we talked about it too on the last preview. It had been so long since Laker fans had experienced at full capacity a postseason game. And then you add the layers and the elements to kind of how the series became a bit more spicy. And I do, from my end of things, give the Laker fan base a lot of credit, because not only did a lot of narratives obviously form going into that before the ball was even tipped, but I think Ja said it best too. For the Grizz, you start missing shots, and then you compound it with one after the other, the crowd, the noise, and the Lakers had one mission, and they were maybe extra motivated. Only they can tell you that, but they took advantage, and it was deafening. It was suffocating to just see what was happening. Obviously, as you mentioned, 35-9 for a team to only score 9 points in the first quarter. I give a lot of credit to the Lakers' approach, their focus, their intensity, and the defensive side of the ball. Like, the Grizz had shots, and I think their ability to just kind of step on the gas, the Lakers, and just keep it there, set a tone that certainly held throughout the game, or the majority of it.
Yeah, and that was a word that you used a lot before game 3. That was focus. And obviously the Lakers came out super, super focused. I mean, a lot of people are like, hey, the Grizzlies obviously outscored them 92-76 the last 3 quarters. But when you have such a lead, it is easy to take the foot off the gas. Yeah. So I don't read a lot into that. What I do read a lot into, though, is Ja Morant. This is the first time that we have seen Ja Morant look like Ja Morant since he came back with the team. He had 45 points, 13 assists, 9 rebounds. He had 24 in the fourth, 22 straight points. And now I don't think it would be fair to be like, hey, can you replicate that? Can you get another 45 points tonight? But there was a sense that Ja is back mentally, physically. His hand looked okay. What did that look like? I mean, from your end, because it wasn't the Ja that, was there the first 2 games.
I think that's where, when I talked about the focus going into game 3, which wasn't apparent for game 2, at least not to the level it should have been from the jump. I think that's where a lot of the focus has to lie here going into game 4, is understanding what Ja was able to do down the stretch, whether that was a part of, obviously he wants to get the win, right? But when you dig yourself that hole, you just kind of felt how the game was going. Ja found a way to get himself comfortable again. And I think momentum is a real thing. And I think coming into now game 4, you have to understand where he left off, where that probably puts him mentally. And from a physical standpoint, it just continues to show him that he probably has returned, and he can play with the injury that he's been dealing with. And so I think focus remains the name of the game. It kind of heightens even more so, obviously, as it should as the series goes along. But what Ja did was nothing light. It was certainly special. I was so impressed with the 3-ball, so to speak. And that can be obviously a very dangerous game to play, because not only does it give a shooter or a player in general confidence when you see that ball go through, but the trickle down effect, I think we saw it in game 1. I mentioned it. I don't think Braun or the squad really got going from 3 until Rui Hachimura hit 3 in a row. So yeah, there's just a focus and an intensity level that has to remain at the same as it was for game 3, if not more. And it starts with Ja yet again.
Yep. And on the Lakers side, we're talking about momentum. The 2 big guys had 2 big games. 31 points, 17 rebounds from AD. LeBron, 25 points, 9 rebounds, shot 50% from the field. I'd ask, like, I don't know, Allie, expecting the same thing, but it's two superstars we're talking about. So really it's the Grizzlies defense and how they can adjust. When we talk about adjustments between each game, at a certain point, we're going to do hopefully 7 of these. And I don't know what else to say about AD and LeBron. They've had good games.
Look, I think to your point of that, superstars are professionals and they know what their responsibility is. I would say though that the 13 points you got from Anthony Davis in game 2, he took that as a personal challenge within himself, understanding that can't happen again. And you saw what that looked like there in game 3. I mean, 31 points on 11 of 24, the 17 boards, the 3 blocks. I like to talk about X factors, obviously, as we have in these previews, because we've basically said superstars need to be superstars, and we all know that. But Anthony Davis has to continue to be game 3 from here on out. No questions asked. And that'll be my guy going forward. Anthony Davis, I need him to play at that high clip. That's scoring, that's offensively, that's moving without the basketball, that's handling double teams, and then being the anchor defensively that he has been so far here through the first 3.
Yes. And I'm going to piggyback off that, not to say it won't be a good or bad thing. But moving forward, a lot of people now are looking at the schedule and saying, look, there was a couple days in between each of these games. Moving forward, if this series goes to 7, it's every other day. And again, whether it does or whether it doesn't, the Grizzlies are a younger team. So you'd think that this benefits them. You've been with this team all year long. Does rest make that much of a difference?
I think the rest came at the right time for the Lakers, and that was at the start of the series. That was at the start of the series and through, quite honestly, the first 3 games. Because we talked about it. I think they finished the season having played 8 games in like 14 days. And the first 3 games were played over like 9 days or something of this series. And so I think it benefited them to adjust, to get off their legs as much as possible in between games, to have that energy, obviously, came game time. But I think moving forward, I think D'Lo said it. There is something to be said about the only way you get in condition, the only way you find your rhythm is playing. And so I think rhythm for the veteran players, because I count on them understanding what has to happen in between games in terms of recovery. But I think there's also an element to our squad and just knowing that the more they play, the more rhythm they get as well. And they allow their bodies to recover and rest in between when and how they see fit. So I can see it both ways. I understand young legs obviously is always a benefit. But I think that there's an understanding of how rhythm and just getting games in quickly as well, and not being off your feet too much could also benefit the Lakers.
This is why I love doing these interviews with the other side. You always want the other side of the coin. Cause I'm like, yeah, we're young. We're going to be running up there, but there's something to be said about the other way too. Allie, let's get right to it. You gave me your X Factor person. So let's just go into X Factor. Like, I hate saying this, but like stat, like something the Lakers need to do tonight where you want to see them do that could help them get the W.
Yeah, I think it's interesting as series goes on. I kind of just look at adjustments. Yeah. And so I think it's easy to say all in all, the little things, the fast break points, the second continuing to rebound. But I think right now, the X Factor thought going into this one is simply containing Ja Morant's confidence and his swag as much as possible. And I say that just from a standpoint of like, Ja's back, like you guys said, and the performance that he had, it's a real thing, especially in the postseason, just to have that momentum and that confidence on your side, or have an understanding of whatever that stat was that you read over the last 3 quarters. And I think Ja said it as well in the post game. The Grizzlies feel that way. They feel that they are still very much into this, and obviously they are. It's only 2-1. So I think just starting with that mindset and approach of the same intensity they had in game 3 has to come over to game 4, knowing that their head of the snake and their floor general feels pretty dang good about himself. And then I think you handle that mindset approach and the rest will take care of itself.
Okay, yours was way better than mine. I'm going a very simple one. And I think the Grizzlies like need a simple X factor for game 4. I think it's 3-point shots. The Grizzlies 3-point shooting was unacceptable in game 4. Like for them, I think they left being like unacceptable performance on our end. It's not quite as well thought out as Allie's, but here we are. Let's make some threes.
Look, it doesn't matter how we get there as long as we get there.
Allie, thank you so much. Game 4, this one tips off at 9 p.m. again tonight, Central Time. seriously, thank you. I'm excited to talk
Oh.
for game 5.
Yeah, talk Wednesday.